What is up, Fanatics? It's 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means another episode of Home Theater Fanatics Live. Tonight is episode 164, and we've got a great one for you. So tonight, joining us, we've got Ben Webster from Periodic Audio and co-hosting Mike from Audio Architects. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, glad to. Are you all right, Mike? Looks like you're like, what is this thing? It's a microphone with a big fuzzy. Oh, all right. I hope everybody's having a great evening out there in hi-fi AV land. And I'm super excited because, Mike, you just got really weird. You just, yeah, you're having some issues tonight. Well, every night. But I'm super excited to welcome Ben to the show. This is Ben's first time with us. But he's representing a company that has been here with us before with Dan in the past, Dan Wiggins. But Ben, welcome. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what your deal with Periodic Audio is, and then we'll get into what is Periodic Audio, because there might be a couple of people that don't know, and we need to let them know because it's cool.
Yeah, so I started in the audio. I've been in the audio industry for basically my whole career. I worked on the sales side first in late teens, early 20s, and then I started buying for retailers. Then after that, I moved into working with it professionally. I was a sound effects editor, and then after that, I started into the technology world, making gear myself. And Dan was actually a guy that in the 90s during the car audio craze.
He was making good old days.
Yeah, he was making these insane speakers. And so that's when I first met Dan. I reached out to him from Canuckistan, where I'm based, Canada, in the mountains here.
Right.
And we just started chatting. And then over time, I founded another company. It was called Mass Fidelity. And that we did a bunch of hi-fi stuff there. And then after that, I was visiting Dan in California, and he said, I've been working on these IEMs, and what do you think about, getting together with me and we'll make a go of this? And it's been a pretty interesting journey so far. So yeah, that's a bit about me. And I guess Periodic, kind of the concept behind it was we wanted to stick the equivalent of a high-end hi-fi system in your pocket.
Right.
And so we started with the IEMs, and they're great sounding, great performing, sort of objectively and subjectively for most people. And then we continued on and worked on an amplifier, like a big power amp, the equivalent of that would fit in your pocket. And just recently we've released sort of a DAC pre-amp. They're all fun products, and the idea is that we put all of the money we put into the actual sound of the products. So you're not going to get any fancy packaging from us. We don't go, get into ridiculously expensive material use just because it looks pretty or anything like that.
Right.
Everything is directly related to the sound. So that's kind of where we're at. If you're somebody that likes the bells and the whistles and the feature of the week and stuff like that, we're probably not for you. But if you're somebody who values sound quality above all else, then we present incredible value for money.
Right on. So let's talk about the IEMs just a little bit, because I reviewed and I have a pair of the originals, and I have I don't know, are you calling them the V2s or the
Yeah.
refreshed
Actually,
model, or
so the IEMs are on V3.
okay,
So
maybe I have
V1.
V2s and V3s, I'm not sure.
When did you get them?
Well, the new ones I got just, I don't know, 3 months ago or something like that, and they're the new detachables. And then
Yeah.
the ones before that, I've got the carbons and I think berylliums, and they're not detachable. But that's been
So if you got those
3
two,
years ago.
yeah,
2
if you
years.
got those two at the same time, then you probably have V2. It wasn't a huge difference. We found that the first cables that we were using, we got a lot of complaints about how easily they tangled.
Okay.
And so that was the change, right? That was all was done. But this V3 was a really big overhaul, and we did a bunch of materials research with Eastman Chemical. I don't know if you've heard of them before, but of like
Is
Eastman
there any
Kodak
relation
fame.
to Eastman Kodak? Yeah.
Exactly. So Eastman Chemical was spun off, and Kodak or Kodak was spun off. I'm not sure which way you would look at it, but basically Eastman stayed as a chemical company, and they do all kinds of high-end materials, and I mean high-end as in advanced materials. So they came to us and said, we want to figure out if these materials are any good for acoustic applications, and they're stuff that they were already using in medical devices and stuff like that. And so over the course of, I think it was 3 years, Dan did a deep dive, and it turns out that this, what these are made of now, they have incredible acoustic properties. So they're better than anything else that we've ever measured.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not. It's really interesting because there's a lot of brands that will do things like they'll use aluminum or something like that.
Right. Sure.
But actually that doesn't do you any favors from a sonic perspective, right? So from a marketing perspective, it's great. But if you're just focusing on just pure sound quality and that's all you care about, this is the stuff, right? And so we redid the geometry of the actual earbud to just tweak it a little bit more, and we didn't actually change the transducer. We changed the connector, as you pointed out, and that we moved to what we call a TS. So here I can show you here. So like a similar to what like a 3.5 mil to be.
Right.
But we had to custom design, and we call it the ideal connector. And so we had to custom design this connector that would fit in here. And the reason that we used that sort of design inspiration, that TS or kind of thing, is because that design has been stable since the 1800s. You see it on your 1/4-inch cables, you see it on your 3.5s, and it's reliable. And so there was.
You're talking about the what, tip ring, band ring, or whatever.
Yeah. Tip ring sleeve.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
TRS.
Yeah, tip ring
but
sleeve.
In this case, it's a TS, so
right.
Tip sleeve. And it's the other connectors that you'll find that are used in IEMs with detachable cables. They're actually not very good for that application. It's just that they fit. So that's why other companies started using them. But if you talk to anyone that's owned a pair with them, over time, they'll start hearing cracking and stuff like that. And that's
just from physical connection issues, right?
Yeah, because they weren't designed for that. Those types of connectors, a lot of them, they were designed for like 5 or 10 insertions, right? And where these things, they were designed way back when for infinity. It's like it's the stuff that you would use in the switchboards and all that kind of stuff. And if you twist them, the connection is perfect. So it really is, in our opinion, and of course we're biased, the best possible solution, for that kind of a job. But we're also letting other people in the industry use them if they want. So that's something that we're talking to a few other manufacturers of IEMs, and there seems to be real interest. Yeah,
no,
so
that's real cool.
We wanted to do something, in this case, for the industry, because we work, Dan and myself, and actually all the founders of Periodic Audio, we work as consultants anyway for other companies.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to do something that we could, let other people use as well.
No, that's awesome. And when I look at the difference between the V2 or V1s, which are the ones I have, the cables are still pretty tangly, so it might be a V1. And that was the thing that I dislike the most about them. Not that really impacted anything, but if there was one thing I could have changed, it would have been the cable, particularly the fact that it wasn't removable and replaceable, right? Because from my point of view, if something's going to get damaged on these, for my use cases, it's going to be the cable, right? I'm going to snag it on something or rip it out or something like that. So the upgrade there, I think, is significant, and it made a big difference. Sound quality, I can switch them back and forth, and it's pretty close. But from functionality's point of view, big difference.
Well, yeah, and so there's a bit of a sneaky idea in there as well, because we've all been in the industry for a really long time, and when you think about the value part of when you're buying an IEMs, it's in that bud, right? And if you think about it like an old school hi-fi system, right, there are examples of speakers and stuff like that out there where the wire was actually attached right into the back. And that was always the failure point as well. Right. So we thought about it and said, well, why don't we use a little bit of that inspiration and not only make them detachable, make them reliable and in the standard. And it seems to have worked out pretty well. Now you have the equivalent of these kind of old school vintage speakers that you can kind of move around wherever you want, and they'll be with you for life. I mean, the way that these things are built, the kind of materials, like I mentioned, is very solid material that's used in all kinds of medical applications. So the lifetime on them will be fantastic. If something ever happens to the cable, which is the failure point, just replace them, and 20 years from now, you'll have them, just like a great pair of vintage speakers.
Right on. So here's a story, and this involves Mike. So Mike, do you remember, gosh, it's probably been 2 years ago now, when we had those 4 pair of Periodic Audio IEMs, and we went and we did a video where we would listen to them all, and we mixed them all up so we didn't know which was which, and then we picked the ones that we liked the best from the 4. And what were they? They're beryllium, titanium, carbon, and
magnesium.
Mike, do you remember which ones we chose, or which ones you liked and which I can't remember anymore?
I do. What's funny is that I thought the carbon sounded great, right? Being the flagship at the time. And actually, to tell Dan, if Dan's watching, I'm still waiting on those V2 carbons. But aside from that, I actually liked the cheapest ones. I'm not going to say cheap because they're not cheap. The least expensive ones, I think, were the magnesium, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and so
those were my favorites.
There's no wrong answer, actually.
Right.
And that's something that, so the price actually has not a relationship necessarily to, does it sound better, because that's a subjective thing. And we've learned that you can make something, it's a little bit like art, actually. It's a bit of a brain screw, designing audio equipment, because one thing that, like, if you can like something and think it's amazing, but the market might not agree with you.
Right.
So the reflection in the price is actually how hard it is to work with the materials. So magnesium is actually, very easy to work with. So we get almost no failures when we build the transducers. Titanium's a little bit harder, and so we get more failures. Beryllium's really hard, so we get more failures. And with carbon, we're literally growing like a layer of, we're a diamond speaker cone, right? So the cost involved in that is much higher than stamping the really malleable magnesium mix that we have. And that's it. There's no wrong answer. There's lots of people that like magnesium, and there's lots of people that like carbon, and it's just whatever you like. And that's something that I don't think that's talked about enough in the audio industry. Is just sorry, go on.
I think the takeaway for me, and I think for Jiles as well, I'll speak for Jiles on this point.
Oh, you're gonna speak? Do it.
I'm gonna speak.
Do it.
I think we were actually pleasantly surprised because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Dan gave us kind of a breakdown of each one and how people perceive them, but we did a total blindfold test. We didn't know what we were listening to. And we just kind of put one to the side and one to the other side. Not that they were bad, because I think they were all good. I just felt I love bass. I love a lot of bass in my headphones. And the cool thing is I'm actually still using the magnesiums. They're in my nightstand, and I use them at night when I'm reading my Kindle. I plug them into my Kindle and I listen to Qobuz while I'm reading, and they live there. Now, do I love true wireless in ears? Yeah, I do. But the thing is, it's like charging, and then if they're not charged in this and that, it's more maintenance, and the failure rate is obviously a lot higher than something that's passive, like you have in yours. So for me, I enjoy those because I just plug them straight into the Kindle, and the Kindle powers them just fine. Could they use a little bit more oomph? Probably, out of a headphone amp, a small, portable headphone amplifier. I think they would definitely sound a lot better, but I think they sound great, and I'm happy with them. And I've been using them for what, Jiles? You said 2 years now, right?
It's been at least 2 years, and
No
I do
issue?
the same thing. I've got a pair that I keep in my car, and when I when I'm at work and I go to lunch, if I go to lunch by myself, I grab the periodic audios and I plug them into my phone, and I listen to audible.com or music or whatnot while I'm eating, or NPR or whatever. And they're great. They travel. I never have to worry about them being charged or not. Right? They're always good to go. So I really appreciate that. I do want to tell one story though, because you've called out a couple of things that, and this is totally unrelated. So everybody out there in viewer world, I'm going off the railroad tracks here, but we were talking about the 90s, the era of car audio, right?
Yeah.
And you just talked about carbon cones, diamond cones. Well, there was a guy named Richard Clark back during that time frame, and he built custom horn tweeters that went under the dash, and they were like, it was like this big, that, and then they might have been compression drivers, and then they came back to the I guess magnet on the back. And
I remember those.
He did those out of carbon, right? They were like, oh yeah, they've got like diamond dust in them, or something like that. And I'm sure it was for rigidity or whatever, but it just it made me think of that. And yeah, I mean, what's better than hear my diamond ear.
That's
IEMs.
right.
Let's put these in and be cool. But yeah, I guess I'm dating myself a little bit. So next question, Ben, for those that this might not be clear to, tell us why the naming is interesting for the company, right? And what is the connection between the title of periodic audio and all these different names of your devices? I thought this was kind of fun too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it started, because it really was. So it was a bit of a mistake at first, and because what happened was Dan built all of these samples with different transducers.
Right.
And what happened was that, in listening to them, myself and him and other people, just, our friends and colleagues in the audio industry, and everyone had a different opinion, right? And it depended on what they like. Like originally, actually, my favorite was titanium, because I am a bit of a bass head, and settled down a little bit. Actually, the beryllium is now my go-to. I'll use titanium or carbon for a little while, and I'll get my fix, and then I'll circle back. And the beryllium is like the stable, do everything. And actually, those are the daily drivers for a lot of people. Like what you're talking about, how you always grab them, go for lunch or whatever. There's a lot of people in the audio industry, even that work for other brands, that have them in their pocket, and that's what they use. That's what they use every day when sort of they're bumping around, because they are just such a pleasant sound. They do nothing wrong.
Jiles, weren't we fighting over the berylliums? I think we were.
Yeah, the berylliums were my
they were your first.
I like the carbons.
They were your first choice and my second choice, I think.
Yeah.
I think we were kind of fighting over them, and then I ended up with the magnesium and the titanium.
Yeah.
But I still think the magnesium has more bass than the titanium. I don't know why. But like you said, it's all subjective. It's all it's in our heads.
Something that I think it's not talked about enough in this, and back to that whole idea about art and everything, and how it's it gets you, but how you might look at a painting and you might actually be colorblind or something, and it's gonna you're gonna be impacted in a different way than somebody else is. Well, in the audio industry,
that's like the Dune movie.
Which?
The Dune 2021. Remember the wall painting?
Yes.
And no, not Dune. I'm sorry. It's a Foundation, the TV show. Foundation.
I know what you're talking about, though. The wall painting.
The guy was colorblind, right?
Yeah.
So the Isaac Asimov book. So it's all right. Yeah. See, art is imitating the world of television. Anyway, continue on. Another one of my completely off topic things.
Giles is sound blind.
So in the okay, this is exactly my point. Actually, is that we've all been around for a while, and I don't know how old you guys are. I'm in my early 40s, and I've been to a lot of concerts, right? And so there's I for sure have hearing damage in certain frequencies, but we all have different hearing damage, right? Mm-hmm. You've been to this many drum and bass concerts. I've been to this many funk concerts. You've been to this many, whatever concerts. I've been to this many raves. You've been to this many whatever. And during those times, we actually screw our ears up in a way that we can't come back from. But now that's influencing what we like. So not only do we like this sort of fundamental sort of baseline about we like more bass or we like more mid-range or whatever, but now you have to factor in the fact that I've, stood beside dual 18-inch bass bins for 6 hours straight, right?
Yeah, and you don't hear anything at all anymore after that.
Right.
Yeah, you walk out and you're all like, it's really quiet except for that hum.
Yeah. So then Mike, you like and you hear, you hear more bass in that IEM plausibly because you have damage in other areas. And so, it's affecting you in a very different way than the measurements will show you.
Right.
And that's why, measurements to us are actually very important. And if you look at how our stuff measures, it's peerless, right? Like, are there other people that get close or kind of on par? Sure. But we're certainly up in that top, 2%, say, of at any price. And, and that's really Dan. He's a friggin' genius when it comes to transducer design. And the fact that we're not taking something off the shelf, the fact that he's looking at that transducer and the enclosure at the same time, and that's all coming from the ground up. You guys were talking earlier about how you just plug it into your phone, and that's not normal for a lot of these high-end, headphones or earbuds. You usually need something else to really get the most out of it. But these things have been designed so that you can plug it into a phone and you're actually getting full range sound at like half volume or less. And that's super rare. You don't get that
Mhm.
very often.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can plug in pretty much any of your IEMs into my Apple iPhone, and I can play back some slamming music. And I mean, you're hearing these what have to be 25 hertz tones and that kind of stuff. I mean, low bass, and I'm all like,
Yeah.
well, dang, I wish my car stereo would play some bass like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I
totally
think
different.
I think the
Yeah.
technology is cool. I think that, you know, you're right. Everybody's ears are different, and we're all going to hear different stuff. And I think it's cool that you guys have a variety of options for people with different hearing abilities or
Damage.
inabilities. I spent the greater part of my late 20s working in the nightlife industry. So I remember coming out of, at 2 a.m. It was like almost like a numbness in the
Yeah.
ears, because it was, we're talking two 18-inch subwoofers, full blown sound systems, and they're all cranked up. And I come out of there, and someone would say something to me. I'd be like, what? Like I could barely hear, because it's just so numb from all the just a barrage of frequencies all night long. Not to mention people yelling in your ear, and stuff like that. I was a
Mhm.
photographer at the time, so um, yeah. So I know what you mean when I know Giles and I actually did a little test at his house about a year ago, frequency test we found on YouTube. And we were curious, all right, around what frequency do I hear something? And then we brought his son into it, who at the time was maybe what, nine or
Yeah,
10
he
years
can
old.
hear like a dog.
Yeah, he literally
Yeah.
he was picking up almost close to 20 killer.
20,000. Yeah, I mean, way up there.
It was crazy. I think I was around 15, 16, which wasn't bad.
That's
I
not
mean,
bad.
I'm
Yeah.
pushing 40 almost. I'm 39. So,
Mhm.
and Giles was at like 5 or 6, I think.
Yeah, I can't hear anything over 5,000. So I all my music in my home theater, I don't even buy speakers. I just cross over at 80 and it goes straight to the subwoofers.
Well, that's why he
So
loves the bass so much.
yeah,
That's all you can
so
hear.
it really reduces the cost too. You don't need all those amplifiers and extra
No,
speakers and stuff.
in all seriousness, I think you were at what, 14 or 15 though. You were
15, I think, 15
Yeah,
and a
you were
half,
like
something
right
like that.
behind me about it. Like you were like within 1,000 or 2,000.
Yeah, a fraction of an
But
octave.
you are also, though, 10 years older than me though. So I
Well,
mean,
yeah, I'm almost 50. But
oof,
car audio is what, yeah, I know. Car audio is probably what got me. Oh man. I mean, there's probably,
you loved your bass. Didn't you have 215s in your truck when you were
oh,
in Alabama or
we did
whatnot?
all kinds of crazy stuff. We did like we did a truck with 6 18s.
Oh my God.
And not that you need that much, because people today take 115 and put it like in bandpass box and do burps of like 160 decibels and stuff like that. It's not music, it's just like and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a different time back then. But
Have you ever talked to Dan about any of his car audio stuff?
I have not. I didn't even know that he was
I didn't know he did
much
that.
of a car audio guy.
Oh, dude, he was basically in a Cold War with MTX and JL Audio for like a while. And
I love those brands, especially JL. I've got a JL audio sub in my Jeep right now.
well, the designs that he put out back then, I'm trying to remember the name. I want to say it might have been the Brahma subwoofer.
No, that's right. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's totally ringing bells.
Yeah, and so what would happen is that, and so it was always actually what would happen is Dan would put out something wacky, and then the next year MTX and JL and all those companies, they'd show up and they would have something around the same or maybe even a little bit better, and then Dan would come back the year after that and just slaughter them, right? And then it would kind of be that cycle for many years. But you should have him on again to talk about that, just in isolate. Like that's definitely a show. Just all the different wacky subwoofers that he did, because in the end they just gave up, because he went to town and he was just like, okay, gloves are off. And after that gloves are off incident, it just de-escalated, because they're like, we're not going to win this. This guy's insane.
That's funny. No wonder him and Nick from Stereo Integrity are such good friends, because they're both interested in car audio, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
That's
know.
probably where he found out about Dan, probably that way too. And a lot
That's
of people in
funny.
the audio industry, that's how they found out about him.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
if you Google Brahma, Brahma, you can find lots of information out there. I'm looking right now, and there are tons of posts from like like 2001 and that kind of stuff, asking questions about the Brahma this and the Brahma that and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah,
I mean, I'll be honest. If I have a really technical question that I've Googled to death and I can't find the answer to, my
Mhm.
first point of contact is Dan, because he's not only made himself available, which is really cool. I know he's a busy guy. He's got a lot of projects going on,
Mhm.
but he's very approachable.
Yeah.
And you guys are making some magic over there at Periodic.
Well, thank you.
And I was teasing him because I do, we were supposed to, I was supposed to listen to those Carbons again because I listened to him with Giles, but I didn't really get a chance to live with him for a little bit.
Mhm.
But when I did hear him over at Giles's place, man, they had a little bit of everything. They had
Mhm.
great bass, nice tame mids. They weren't, tinny or fatiguing. The highs were beautiful, just an all around great IEM. So I can only imagine what your guys' new stuff is like. Now,
yeah. I see. I want to check those out too. The new Carbons. I'm looking
well, I have a
forward to that this
question.
week.
I have a question. So, the connectors right here, are
Mhm.
they somewhat, is the length proprietary to those, or can I order? Because there's a company I go through, that I buy all my all my cabling for
Mhm.
headphones and stuff like that. I do cool
Mhm.
designs like that, and they have a lot of custom stuff. But I don't know, will I have to have something very specific, or is it something that
Nope.
it's easily found?
Yeah. So the only thing that's so in the ideal connector, it's actually we had to design the female part
Okay,
because there was no female 2.5 mil connector
got it.
that would fit inside of an IEM that was available. So we decided to just build our own. But on the male side, you can find whatever you want. You can attach whatever wire to it you want.
Hmm.
If you want to make it out of any other material, you can do that too. You can make some solid gold 2.5 mil if you want, and that'll still work. It's all about how it's connected inside here. And actually, inside of ours, there's some really cool, metal stuff going on that Dan hasn't really even talked about. So I'm not sure if it's that he doesn't want to, because it does make a difference. But yeah, there's
Hmm.
some pretty precious metals going on inside of that connector. It's very
Nice.
rare. Yeah,
Well, if anything happens and I find myself on hard times,
Melt
I'm going to
those
be
suckers.
melting down
that's right. That's right.
at the pawn shop. There's something valuable in here. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah. The you were talking about the base with carbon, and that was an interesting thing as well, because we were on the fence about it. We were testing it, and we decided to leave it the way it was,
Mhm.
because the base is just it's friggin' pornographic in the carbons,
it
like the way
is.
it is right now.
Giles.
And for some people, it's a bit much, to be honest, right?
Mhm.
There's some, like, if you're somebody that likes really laid back jazz, and you want to hear it kind of how you would hear it in some sort of a megabuck system or something like that, it might be a bit overkill on the bass. But if you like bass, then you get that crazy bass that just hits so hard and so clear. That's the thing.
It
Oh,
is
and
clear. Yeah.
I want to say that, well, they're the lowest distortion IEMs that we've ever measured. Like, we can't find another pair of IEMs that have lower distortion,
Mhm.
like not even close. So you get really, really clear sound,
Mhm.
but you get this pornographic bass at the same time, and that's not a combo a lot of people hear. Um, and you have to be very careful. I just want to, like, give a little warning on that, because with our IEMs in general, they're so clear that it's really easy to damage your hearing. Like,
Mhm.
you need to be careful. because your instinct, if you've been into it for a while, is like when you hear that clear sound, you just want to give her. But the problem is that it stays clear. Like normally what happens is that you start to hear distortion or something.
Mm.
And so you pull it back a bit and you're like, okay, there it is. It's good. But these don't give up. So, if you're not careful, you can actually hurt yourself if you've got a big amp behind them.
That's crazy.
Heads up.
Interesting.
Heads up. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's so we're about 30 minutes in, and there's a lot more stuff I want to move on to. So let's shift topics a little bit, because I want to call out a couple of different, maybe even 3 different products that you have that aren't IEMs, but I think are important to the whole ecosystem, right? And the first one is what is Rhodium? What is your Rhodium product? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Rhodium was a really interesting development. So nickel already existed,
and we'll talk about that one next.
Yeah, and just so for people just to keep track, nickel is a power amp. We'll get into that later, but it existed. The problem was that all the companies were getting rid of their headphone jacks, and there was a big market emerging for dongle backs. And so we looked at that, and generally speaking, if there's someone else that's doing something amazing at a good value, we leave it alone, because we're like, okay, well, that's a good option, and people can just buy that, and we'll focus on the stuff that we're good at. But in this case, there wasn't, in our opinion, there wasn't a lot out there that was really that great value for money. And so we started looking around, and you find the usual suspects in terms of the different components that you can use. Because remember, the form factor, I have one right here. The form factor is really tiny. So you got to fit the entire electronics package inside of that thing. So we started looking around, and we came across from a colleague of ours that we do consulting with, a bigger brand. And they just said that they were using this, or looking at using this Realtek 5686, I think it is, which was a flagship DAC from Realtek. And Realtek is a value provider. And to be honest with you, I'm guessing, I can't say this for sure, but I'm guessing a lot of companies don't deal with them because Realtek just won't deal with them, because they do such high volume into these gigantic brands.
Oh, you see them in all kinds of PC equipment. Realtek is all over the place, but typically not.
It's high volume.
Yeah, it's high volume.
But that doesn't mean it's bad, right? And this was like that. This was a little bit of the insight that that Dan had when you started looking at it. He said, this Realtek thing looks really interesting. Not only does it have the capability to do 32-bit 384 kilohertz, it's got a nice DAC in it, but it's got a killer amp on it. And so we put together a board, and we listened to it, and it was what they recommended. Okay, so, and remember, when they're dealing with a Sony or a Creative or whoever, a big company, pennies matter, right? And so all of the components that were in the power supply and audio the passives specifically, they were really cheap. And for most applications, for most people that were buying their Sony theater in a box or something like that, it worked. It made sense. It was good enough, right? So yeah, but Dan, looked at it and said, well, I wonder what would happen because that wasn't good enough. For the record, for us, that wasn't good enough. We wouldn't have gone to market if that's where the performance bar ended. So Dan got into it, and he started doing research on a bunch of like bleeding edge passives. And he ended up picking, for the power supply circuit, capacitors that are, if you look up like X7R capacitors, for example, They have a high temperature dielectric sort of in them. And what it means is that, they can run at really high temperatures, which is like if you want to get tons of juice out, and they remain stable, right? And then he looked at what you would call like I think it was C0G capacitors for the audio signal path. And the thing with those is that the capacitance drift, even when you're running them flat out, is like 0.05% or something.
Nice.
Right? And so we put those in, and we were like, holy shit, like these things like made a huge difference. And so we put this new version on the bench, and this thing's kicking ass. Like, we're testing it against, the usual suspects, the Audio Quests, the whatever, and we're mopping the floor with them, right? And the thing about that Realtek one, if you can get access to it, it's not a crazy expensive component. And even with the little price bump that they gave us, because they knew that we were working on other projects for bigger brands, that little price bump still allowed us to put this product together and sell it for $49 as a small company and be fine, right? Like we're still making money at $49.
That's awesome.
And if you look at the way it performs, I did this thing a little while ago with it that I should make a video of it, because I have at home these mono blocks and this old quad preamp and all this kind of stuff, and I took the quad out of the signal path and I plugged the Rhodium in with its little USB-A adapter that comes with it. I plugged it into this little Android box that I use for streaming video. And, I put Spotify, and I put Qobuz and Tidal and, again, all the usual suspects on. And it beat the shit out of the quad. So I'm just going like this. So, we think about the world and how it's changed with all this technology that we use. And we see things getting smaller and smaller, and we see cameras getting, put into smartphones, and we see all this stuff. But a lot of these audio components that are still out there that are being sold for mega bucks, they're still, these gigantic things. And what this showed me is that, with Dan's innovation and, his thoughtfulness into this tiny little microarchitecture, we're able to get incredible like preamp performance out of this, right? And it's something that I encourage, if you have one, try it out, because it's a little bit embarrassing how good it is for $49, right? Like it shouldn't be that good compared to these other mega buck preamps and stuff like that people buy. Like we're on par. So, and especially the fact that there's a DAC in it as well. So yeah, anyway, that's
crazy.
my Rhodium rip.
Yeah, I can see people now getting like a Raspberry Pi and plugging this guy in and then going straight into their amplifier.
Yeah.
And then just right off Roon, good to go. That's all you need for your system. People are like, where's all your stuff at? Oh, it's just right there. It is. It's all right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
That's it. It's done. Fits the palm of your hand.
Right on. So let's spin back around to nickel then. And let me ask this question. So the Rhodium, that is both your DAC and your headphone amplifier. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's going to give you, and so I touched on it quickly and then we moved off, but it'll do 31 milliwatts per channel RMS, like real RMS continuous power per channel. And if you think about, for example, the Beryllium, it's something like 100 dB efficient, 101 dB efficient, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like putting a 1 watt, speaker against a 30 watt amp, right? You're good. It's gonna give you all that you need. but on that, so if I get into the nickel as well, you'll see the rhodium thing, why, for me, selfishly, why it was more important. And if you think about with periodic, that initial founding vision of putting a high-end stereo really in your pocket, is that you have your phone, and so you've got this thing, and this is your source, right? Yep. And then now I'm going to add the nickel, and I've got my DAC, right? And I've got my preamp. And now I'm going to take my nickel and I'm going to plug it in. And now I've got my power amp, right? So it's like an old school kind of stereo architecture, and it all together will fit in your pocket. And it sounds like it. Like, it sounds like that high-end component system. The first time you hear it, I still remember the first time I heard one of these, I was at 12 or something. The first time I heard like one of these big component systems, I just went, oh my God, such a difference compared to like just a box with some speakers. And it's that same jump, where you're separating the things, everything's doing it right. You've got these great speakers, you've got a great power amp, you've got a great preamp, and you've got an awesome digital source. It's all there.
That's cool. So let's talk a little bit about travel then, right? And I'm just I'm going to take my whole family, we're going to take summer vacation pretty soon, and I'll be on planes for, I don't know, 40 hours going and coming, right? What percentage of differentiation or value do you think I would get out of using just the carbons or berylliums straight out of my iPhone, as opposed to iPhone, DAC, nickel, headphone, right? So
the impossible question.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, and because I've been thinking about this too, and I'm like, okay, should I try and get all this stuff and take it all? Is it going to be worth it to me to, not that it's much, because like you said, it fits in your pocket, right? It's all tiny.
Yeah.
But there's nothing quite as easy as into the phone. Although with an iPhone, I still have to use a dongle no matter what, right? So maybe it makes sense that I kind of fall in the middle and just use the dongle DAC, right, and plug in that way, and get the improved performance on sound quality out of the DAC, as opposed to what's built into the phone, and not use the amp. So I don't know. That's kind of what's rolling around in my head right now. What does the right kind of travel kit look like for an iPhone? Now, in your world, you just
Well, yeah. So I take it all with me, because that again, that was like the thing that we wanted to do. So I can have that. I can have this megabuck stereo in my pocket, but I think that the answer is, think about what you have at home, and where, what it really is, and, beyond, because at home, you're honest with yourself. You're like, what? I don't need a separate preamp amp. XYZ company has a fantastic integrated, and I'm good with that. And so if that's the case, then use the rhodium and a pair of berylliums, or whatever you like, and you're done. That's great. You got your nice little compact system. But if you're like, no, I'm a guy that I need
to have it all.
I need my preamp, and I need it to be beefy, and I need this, and I need then you stick the nickel in, right? Because it does, each step of the way, there is a noticeable difference. And that's actually something that, it's subjective, but it really is something that we use as a benchmark, right? Is like, can you tell, right? And in this case, every single time you add something, it's like, you can definitely tell. So is it worth it to you? I don't know. That's you. I have no idea. But can you tell? Absolutely, at each step. And I think you said you're going to Axpona.
Oh yeah.
Come and find out, because you'll be able to hear that entire setup at Axpona, and you can decide for yourself.
Right on. So everybody out there, I'll give it a shot, and I'll let everyone know what I think. I'll post up some pictures on Instagram of what the winning solution will be architecturally for where I think the sweet spot for the sound is for me.
There you go.
That's exciting.
I have a quick question for Benjamin.
Mhm.
Can I get a discount on the World Without End tribute CD?
World Without
World
End
Without
tribute.
End.
Why does that ringing a bell?
Okay, on
That's
your
something
books,
that Dan. Yes, that's something that Dan was. Talk to Dan.
it's
That was
$10,000.
a Dan
It says
initiative.
$10,000
Yeah. So ask
for a
Dan.
CD.
Are you going to be at Expona?
No.
No, well
I'm
then.
just joking because I saw it's a tribute to Sam Hain, and it says $9,999 for the CD, 12 songs, limited quantities available. I don't know if Dan's
Yeah.
trolling or if this is a real thing.
I honestly, so the trolling thing wouldn't surprise me. Dan's a bit of a turkey sometimes, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
Oh, it looks like your social media team said talk to Dan about that.
They're all
Okay.
like, yeah, no comment.
I stumbled upon it because another quick question I had. Sorry, Giles, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
go for it. Do your thing.
Any plans? And I think I've asked Dan this, and I don't know. I can't remember what he told me. I don't know if I was supposed to hush, but are you planning over ear at all? Anything in the near future, or is it?
We have a concept
Okay,
that we're working on.
I'm excited.
And the whole thing is, remember, fit in your pocket.
Ooh.
So can Dan Wiggins figure out the acoustics to get an over-ear pair of headphones that are slamming to fit in your pocket?
You know what I would do? And I hope Dan's listening. I would totally make one of those old school, remember those old school Sonys that had like the mega bass, that actually sounded decent for its time period, right? So when cassettes were, the best quality available to anybody, those things sounded
Walkman.
great. I thought they sounded fantastic. They had some bass, they had good, good vibration.
Are you talking about the ones that were like this big around and then had like the little
not
band?
not too big, just but yeah, like the plastic ones that came around and just fit on your ear, over your
on ear.
Yeah.
So there's on ear, and the concept that we've been working on is a proper over ear.
Okay, so something like this, so something that covers your whole ear.
Covers your whole ear, and we're playing right now. The mechanical engineering involved is quite complicated. So, but it's fine. Like we have people internally that do that, but it's not an easy trick. So you'll be the first to know, since you're the first one who's asked.
There we go.
So I'm supposed to ask about another thing too, something called iridium. And I don't know. I have no. That's the only information I have. They said, well, ask what is iridium.
So iridium it's an extremely rare material, and about 2 years ago we started working with a group of applied materials scientists on how we would make a transducer with an iridium diaphragm. And Dan has been working with them on that. And I can say that there's been 3 sets that have been made. And we're not quite happy with it yet, but it's similar to the carbon development. The carbon development took about 3 years. So it's the same kind of idea. And we actually have a lot of those little things in various stages where we're playing with different, because again, in the work we do anyway with other companies, the more that we can learn about the best things to do to make amazing sound with, that helps us. And it helps us help them differentiate stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all those little details, because if the sound quality that comes out of an iridium set of IEMs is, a step beyond the carbons, then holy smokes, I don't even know what that's going to be like.
So the deficiency, in my opinion, so actually the last set that we made, there were people that said, I really like this. In my opinion, the deficiency was there just wasn't enough bass. And I don't mean enough like carbon bass. I mean, it sounded like a really lean hi-fi system.
Sure.
So something, what were those ones? The LS35A, I think they were. These tiny little bookshelf kind of monitors, and they had this insane, like, lower mid-range to high frequency. They did sound staging incredibly well and everything, but there was like not very much bass at all. So
right.
if you weren't really into bass, then those things were great. But it was just not quite there yet. So iridium is a material that we're working with in transducer diaphragms. I can tell you that.
That's cool. All right, we are about 4 minutes out from our ending point. So Ben, is there anything else that you'd like to tell all the folks out there about Periodic Audio or any of the products? Anything? Everybody's like, vibranium, make the vibraniums.
Unobtainium.
Yeah, unobtainium. Yep. Anything else people should know? Anything you want to call out as a kind of closing thought?
Well, I would say to stay tuned for some more electronics in the, I'm going to call it dongle DAC-ish space. We have some pretty cool stuff going on there. We have something that will give you some storage as well, some high resolution music storage. And the other thing that I would say is that we're working on we've been working on this now for a few years, is a proprietary wireless system that does uncompressed high resolution audio in headphones.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and in theory, it could go other places too. So that's what to keep an eye out for over the next couple of years from Periodic.
Man, awesome. Well, thank you for the peek into the future there, and thanks so much for coming on the show with us today. If people are interested in seeing Periodic Audio, you'll be at Expona next, showing off the full stack. Anything in the plans beyond Expona at this point?
No, although as the world continues to, open up post-apocalypse, we're going to start being at a lot of shows, and we want to really, we're working hard. We're gearing up now in a big way commercially as well. So we've just taken on a new distributor in France. We've taken on a new distributor in Australia. We're talking to someone in Spain. The guys in South Korea are killing it. There's a lot of people over there that love our stuff. So yeah, we're on a rip.
Awesome. And for folks in the US that want to purchase some of your gear, what's the best avenue for them?
Right now, it would be direct off of our website, although there is some interest for some larger distribution in the US as well right now.
Cool. So periodicaudio.com. Everybody go check that out if you're interested in picking up a pair of these. And they're my go-tos. I've been using them for years now, and there's not a week that goes by at least that I don't use them, which is pretty outstanding for me. I usually am very all over the place with everything with equipment, kind of doing what I do, but I keep coming back. So Ben, thank you so much for coming on the show, and look forward to talking to you again more in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care, Ben.
Okay.
All right, Mike, we're going to close things out. I want to talk about our channels here for just a little bit before we end the show.
Whoa. There's a huge elephant in the room, and AA is going to call us out if we don't address it.
Okay, what's that?
Don't address the Batman.
Oh, the Batman. Okay, all right, let's talk about the Batman. Ben, I can see you in the background. If you've watched the Batman, I'll bring you back in if you want to talk about it. Otherwise, you can just close out. Just wave your hands if you want to talk. Otherwise, oh, he says no, he's out. All right. Okay, so
He knows. He knows.
you go ahead. You talk about the Batman, Mike, and then I'm going to talk about the Batman.
Well, I feel like it was a fundamental betrayal of the character, plain and simple. Lazy writing. Matt Reeves just didn't seem to like the character. It's like you give. What's upsetting is that Christopher Nolan is like the gold standard for me of Batman, right? So of course I'm going to compare a lot of things to how Christopher Nolan did it and stuff like that. This movie, way too long, was 3 hours, felt like 4. The scenes were dragged on. I felt like I liked how Christopher Nolan was wham, bam, wham, bam, wham, bam, action in every scene, everything was, there was a lead up to everything. It explained why Batman was Batman, and most Batman movies did that. They explained why Batman was Batman. The reasoning behind it, his motivation, his spirit, I wanted to see Batman be Batman and be good at being Batman and know why he's being Batman. I found myself actually rooting for Paul Dano's Riddler because he did more to expose corruption and take down the bad guys than Batman did. So that was my take on it. I thought it was, for the people that do love the detective comics, I don't even think it did that justice. I think it was, there was a detective-ish theme to it, but way too woke for me, way too agenda-ish for me, too much politics. It was an F for me. 2 thumbs down. I thought it was trash. The only thing I think they did okay was the soundtrack, and I did like the bass and the explosions, and obviously the chase scene with the Batmobile. That probably rumbled your theater pretty good.
That's where I'm at in the movie right now. So they just got finished with the chase scene.
Okay, so that was fantastic audio, but I felt like the voices were a little too low, having to turn it up a little bit. I don't know. What did you think?
Well, the first half that I've seen so far, I thought was outstanding. I thought it was great. But I think people will look at it from different points of view, because if you want it to be a Batman movie, I agree. It's not that much of a Batman movie. This movie is not about the Batman.
No.
Right? It's not. It's a crime, mystery, thriller, suspense kind of movie, right? Right? It's not telling the story of Batman at all. Batman just happens to be one of these weird characters in the movie that carries along the plot line of the Riddler, right? And the things that he's doing. It's kind of like Seven or something like that, right? There's this bad guy that's got all the interesting stuff.
Well, what's funny about that, and I will try not to spoil this for you.
Don't spoil it for me. So
I won't
stop.
spoil it. I won't spoil it for you, but it's funny you mentioned Seven. Just remember what you mentioned, and then
Sure.
after you're finished watching the film, you'll see certain similarities that to me wasn't just an outright robbery of Seven. So it didn't seem original. It seemed really, for being 3 hours, it seemed rushed. I felt like they wanted to put too much. They wanted to pack in too much stuff, but they ended up not accomplishing anything. They didn't give Catwoman a proper backstory other than her father was what's his face, but I don't know if you've seen that part. Sorry, spoiler alert.
No, I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen that.
Sorry,
but I agree that it's not about these characters.
It really has no character buildup and no character arc whatsoever. It's just, here's the story. This is what's going on. This guy dresses up like a bat. This guy dresses up like a weirdo. And let's just roll with it. And I love the guy's glasses, by the way. I actually want a pair of those Paul Dano glasses.
Yeah, it's like a murder mystery, like Murder on the Orient Express. They don't go into a lot of the back history of the whatever that character's name, I forget his name, but he's just the best at solving murder mysteries, and it's all about that murder mystery. So for me, the movie is all about, okay, I'm up to the point, like, who's the rat, right? And what's going on, and why are they doing this, and why did it happen this way, and why is this thing, right? And blah blah blah. And then how does Penguin tie into all this stuff? And so that for me is interesting. It's pretty cool. But it's not an action superhero movie. There's not superpowers flying around and people flying through the air and blowing stuff up, and Batman being superhuman, right? He's very, very, very down powered, I guess you would say, from when I'm going to go fight Superman. That's
one thing I didn't like, and I actually, just thinking about it makes me angry, is that there is no separation between Bruce Wayne and Batman in this movie. He plays the same character as both people. Now, in every other iteration of Batman, especially, like I said, I'm going to harken back to Christopher Nolan's Batman, there was a separation. Christian Bale when he was in Bruce Wayne mode, he was buying hotels, he was driving his Lambo, he was, he was using his money, in this one, it was like emo Batman and then emo Bruce Wayne, same brooding face, same, just no personality, no character. And I felt like that was, they totally missed the target there, because with Batman, what separates, so with Batman is actually Bruce Wayne, right? Batman is Batman. Like, that's who he is Batman. Bruce Wayne is his cover story. That's who he pretends to be every day. Like they mentioned in Batman Begins, when, what's her face? Katie Holmes said, this is your real mask. And she's touching his actual face. And that's true. That's true with Batman. So I think they missed a target. I think it was very poorly written, poorly executed, bad casting all around. Like I said, wasn't impressed.
Yeah, I'll take, I don't say 100% opposite of you, but maybe 70-80% on the other side of the pendulum swing. I just love it from the point of view of the story. I want to see what's going to happen next. I think it might have been better if they hadn't used Batman as a vehicle for it.
Right. Well, just like the Joker, they wrote an amazing story about this guy with mental illness and just made him the Joker.
Right. It's very similar to that, right? It's
nothing to do with,
it's not a superhero movie.
It's not.
It's a story. There's a narrative. There's a story.
But the difference is the Joker was actually well written. This one wasn't. That's the only problem.
I think that the difference is probably there might be some of that, but I think that the portrayal of the character in the Joker by what's his name?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix was freaking amazing. Joaquin Phoenix was awesome, right? And I think that Batman, he's just all right. He's not freaking awesome.
The thing with Robert Pattinson, his range is very, very specific. He has to play a specific role. And now as the Batman, he did okay, but it's still there was no, practically throughout the whole movie, he's just sitting there trying to figure out what he's going to do. Yeah, he's in year 2 of being Batman. We get that. He's brand new. He's figuring himself out. He doesn't know what he wants to do. But there was no, like with Batman Begins, they told the origin story and everything, but in this one, there was no reference. Obviously, there is no League of Shadows or anything like that. It's just, and I've seen this iteration of Batman before within the show Gotham. It was very similar to this. The show Gotham was very similar to this, other than the fact that they actually gave him a backstory and a motivation. But I don't know. I just don't like the way it was written. I don't like the way they had Pattinson do, Bruce Wayne. Just there was no separation, I felt, between those two characters, and there usually is. There has to be, and he doesn't do anything. He does nothing.
It's like
it's frustrating.
Well, if you want the true definition of doing nothing, that's the Indiana Jones movie, right? So the movie would have ended the same way, even if it never even showed up for anything. If you go back and watch it, it's pretty funny. For this, yeah, I don't know what's going to be the end. I don't know how it's going to end up, but I'll take the opposite viewpoint of it's all right. It is definitely not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's a it's a crime drama that happens to have people that dress up in outfits.
Yeah, that really.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I said, they could have, had they paced it better, it could have been like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hour movie.
I would make it shorter.
Yeah,
It is.
I mean,
I did at an hour and a half hit the down button on my NVIDIA Shield to see how much time's left, and when I saw there was still another hour and 20 minutes or whatever,
you're like, Jesus.
I was like, I looked at it for a second and said, really? And not that, what? So yeah, maybe by the end of this, I'll be like, that was way too long,
Well,
But,
I think one of the coolest parts too was Colin Farrell and how you're looking at the Penguin, you're like, okay, I know in my heart and in my head that that's Colin Farrell, but there's no, the makeup was so good.
no, it doesn't. No, it's when I look at the character, it doesn't say Colin Farrell to me
Right.
at all. It's
Right,
just
but
the
it's him.
Penguin. It's just the Penguin, right? It doesn't look like Colin Farrell at
To
all.
be honest, I think the Penguin was probably one of my more favorite.
I like the Penguin. I think
He was
did
one
a
of my more
great job.
favorite actors on there, or not actors, but performances. And it's a shame. It's a shame I didn't like it because I am probably one of the biggest, and you know this, I'm one of the biggest superhero buffs there is.
That's why you don't like it.
Well, I wasn't too impressed with Ben Affleck's Batman, but at least once again, they separated Bruce Wayne and Batman. When in Justice League, Bruce Wayne goes to recruit, he has kind of this snarky comedic value to him, and Ben Affleck pulls it off. He pulls off Bruce Wayne really well. Could his Batman have been a little bit better? Yeah, I'm sure. And like I said,
according to him, no, it couldn't.
Like I said, Christopher Nolan's is the gold standard, I think, for our generation, for this generation. Obviously, I'm excited to see what Michael Keaton's going to do in the new Flash, which he's coming back as the Tim Burton, reincarnation of Batman there. So I'm excited to see
After
what
they get him off his walker.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what old Michael Keaton's going to do. And I'm excited to see what DC's going to do moving forward, because like we were discussing the other day, they are looking for their own version of Kevin Feige to take DC into the next level. They want to do the shows. They want to do more movies. They want to correlate the shows with the movies. And so far, to be honest, I thought they've been doing a great job. I loved the Arrow. I love the Flash show. There's a plenty of DC shows that are really, really, Titans is really good. There is really a lot of options, but I don't know. Adam West is the best. Jesus. That was, what's funny? What's funny is that my girlfriend and I we kept pausing it throughout the movie and going, are you for real? This is horrible. And we kept continuing. At one point, I'm like, you know what? I'd rather have Adam West and the other guy and Robin going bang, pow, thwack, than watching this. Honestly.
Oh, you just crossed over Marvel. Thwack is Marvel. Come on, man.
Oh, Thwack is Marvel. Sorry.
Thwack is, yeah. And Bamf.
I don't know, man.
Bamf is Marvel too.
Keaton was a great Bruce
and
Wayne.
Schnicked.
Now, I don't know why, but my girlfriend's favorite iteration of Batman was Val Kilmer in Batman Forever, which I thought was funny. I thought that was really funny because that was probably one of my least favorite.
Well, Val's gonna get some more screen time here pretty soon.
Oh, he's sick, man.
Well, he's in Top Gun.
I don't think so. I think they killed him off.
Did they?
I think they might have.
I thought he was a general or something. Am I thinking about somebody else?
Yeah, but I think they kill him off in the movie. Like they just say, "Oh, this guy was the admiral" or whatever.
Let me see.
I know he's been really sick though.
So somebody was
maybe some flashback pictures or flashback videos, because I know he's been super sick and all over the media. It's
no, he's in the movie. He plays a like a high ranking person in the Air Force or whatever, and he's got the gray hair and everything. Iceman,
dude,
Iceman is
I
back.
think the best. There's two of my favorite Kilmer movies. One is Tombstone.
Oh, that's the
Because,
best for
yeah,
me.
by
100%.
far.
Nothing else
Oh,
can come
what
close.
comes super close is Real Genius.
Not for me. No,
Oh, I
Real
loved it.
Genius is great.
It was a
But
great movie.
but Tombstone, I mean, dude,
I heard he's
that
really
you're my
hard to work
Huckleberry.
with. I heard he's horrible to work with.
Oh man, I got to go back and watch Tombstone again because that is classic. And for folks out there that haven't seen Tombstone,
Johnny Ringo.
oh,
It
it's
was like someone
so
walking out of the old
good,
grave.
so good, man. But that was
Oh,
what,
man.
20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago. It's just
Yeah.
sad that he's super sick and everything. He was an interesting actor. He was very interesting, and he did some really interesting roles. But it's sad to see a lot of the actors from our generation are just either, I mean, going down the Kevin Spacey route and becoming pedos, or they're old and dying off, or I mean, look at Nick Cage, washed up, doing anything he can get his hands on.
Nick Cage is coming back though, man.
I heard he's working on something.
He's
But-
I think Nick Cage is about to start killing it again.
You think so? You think he has
Yeah.
one last ride?
Well, he just did the unbearable talent of being Nick Cage or something like that,
Something like that. He plays himself, doesn't he?
where he plays himself. I think, dude, Nick Cage has got a million lives in him. That dude, it's just awesome. I mean, terrible at the same time, right? You know what I mean? But
man, I think my favorite movie with Nick Cage will always be Gone in 60 Seconds. There's no.
You're right. I think that's
then
the
again,
tops.
he was really good in The Rock. He was really good
Okay.
in Con Air.
Well, and then all of the what are the American history National
Treasures. Yeah,
I love those too. Dude, he's really good. He's really good.
He was, and he still is. It's just he's older now, and I wish they would have cast him as Superman. They had plans for that. It was who was it? That was
really?
Who was it? Who was the director that was pushing? There's a picture of him online. I'll pull it up right now. Of
Nick
him
Cage
in the suit. In the suit, dude. This is too fun. Hold on. Oh man, this is funny.
Oh yeah. So two more. My mail says Raising Arizona and Face Off, both good. So I mean, Nick Cage has probably got 20 movies that we could call out and we'd all be like, oh yeah, that was pretty good. But then he's probably got 40 that are just stinkers, right? But he had money problems, so he did anything that came across that was a payday for him for a long time. And just like the guy that just retired.
Check this out.
Yeah, let me put that up.
Could Nick Cage have pulled off Superman? I don't know.
No, he's got too much forehead.
That would have been really interesting. This would have been like a total cult classic Superman, straight to DVD kind of thing.
Yeah. Bruce Willis, the one I was talking about. And then for everybody out there, Double A My Mail, all the folks watching Hi-Fi Haven, blah blah blah, everybody. So thanks for joining us. It's always good to see everybody out there,
especially if you're blah blah blah. Because
I know the blah blah. No, that's just the XYZ because there's so many folks.
I think we have a new person. Let's go ahead and shout him out.
Javed.
I hope I'm saying this right. Javed Nazer.
He says correct, not to your comment. He said that before, but I'll put that out there
Javed,
because it fits.
Or Javed. No, Javed.
Nasir?
No, I'll say it the white way. Javed Nazer. All right.
Let's get all white.
What's going on, Javed Nazer? No, Javed Nazer. I'm gonna say that. Let's see if it's right.
I love to have new folks coming in and participating with us and chatting, and because there's so many people that view but never say anything in comments.
Right.
I would love to see more. So one thing that I want to start during our episodes is to start answering questions and do a Q&A section
let's do it right now.
That has nothing to do with, well, you just got to start learning how to pay attention to the actual show instead of ripping your damn CDs. Are you
Is
ever
that
going
what
to
you think
finish?
I'm doing? Is that what you think I'm doing?
Yeah, or something, because I've only seen the top of your head for the last hour.
I have been ripping all my CDs.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
whole
I
time.
know. Yeah.
Well, dude, because I know everything there is to know about periodic audio.
Well, next time I'm gonna give you a little bit of this. Oh,
Dude, if you let me talk every once in a while, and you weren't
I
like
try to, but you're just like
yippity
this.
yappity yap
You're just like
over here.
this. Oh man, your head's
I
down.
put my mute on. Nobody knew what I was up to.
But yeah, no. So I do want to start taking questions and giving everybody a way to interact with the show a little bit more. That's outside of the context of whatever guest we might have. It could just be general stuff, right? How do I do this, or what do we think about this thing, or what about this other thing, right? So I want everyone to come correct with questions next week so that we can do a little Q&A and maybe even have people come on the show, or they can call in or something like that. I would be very happy for all that kind of stuff to happen too. So everybody out there, start thinking about that, and we'll figure it out.
Well, guys, if you haven't yet, I do have my own channel. It's called Audio Architects, spelled like
right there,
spelled like that, right there.
Oh man, that's
so
hard.
Check it out. See if you like it. If you like it, I would love for you to subscribe to it. If you feel that I'm the right fit for you, if you like speakers, amplifiers, DACs, CD players, I'm specializing in CD players and CDs because, as you can see, I've been rippity doodah over here, as AA said. I love CDs, guys. CDs are my life. I collect them. To me, they're like the modern day baseball card. So I like them being real mint. It's funny because since I've been in this light and I've been looking, that's part of the thing I was doing when you saw the top of my head was I was looking at the CD to see what condition it was. And I was cataloging it on Discogs. I was doing all that while you were talking. So
I know. So I was watching you do it
while you were doing. I would love for you guys to come join me on Audio Architects. I don't have a live stream, but I do pre-recorded segments called Hi-Fi Hour, where I do interview industry professionals and stuff like that. So there is a catalog of that on there as well. So you guys can kind of check that out and see who I've been talking to. Coming up, I have a review on the Premiere MP5 Prisma media streamer. It was good. And then I have
it was good.
What I'm looking at right now is the Perlison. I hooked up the Perlison D12S subwoofer. Took me a second to actually needed to warm up a little bit, because at first I was like, man, but now that it's warmed up and it's been flexing a little bit, man, it's really pumping out some good bass. So I'm excited to not only listen to it in my 2-channel area, but listen to it in my little home living room theater and see what it can do, because it's got a ton of technology behind it. And Jiles, I know you have the 15-inch version of what I have. No pun intended.
Well, that's right. I do have the 15-inch version of what you have.
And but no, I mean, realistically though, it's a cool sub. Yours is yours all the way matte black, or is it yours gloss?
No, it's matte black.
See, mine's only matte black in the front, and the rest is gloss.
Oh no, mine's matte black all the way around.
Oh, dude,
which crazy. I like, because in a theater I like matte as opposed to glossy. My tastes have changed over time. I used to like really shiny stuff, but now I'm more into let's make it flat back matte. Matte,
one more thing for your audience, guys. If you know of a really, really good independent unsigned band or group that has that sells merch, that sells CDs, that has really good music that's available, to listen to it somewhere online. Doesn't have to be in the big dogs. It doesn't have to be Spotify or Cool Buzz. As long as they have like a Bandcamp or a SoundCloud, somewhere to go listen to, please send me some links, because or just go to the forum on my website, www.audioarchitects.com. I have a forum now where you can go ahead and I'm going to make a post and say, hey, check out this band or check out that band, because I want to create sort of I don't want to say database, but I want to create an opportunity for people to discover all these unsigned artists. Because I was thinking the other day, I'm like, okay, if the only way to discover unsigned artists in Denver, here in Denver, is to either go to one of the bigger mom and pop record stores. They do have a local artist section, but even then, the people working there aren't that knowledgeable as far as who is good and who's not, or where I shouldn't waste my time. So if I can narrow, but then I can't do that in New York, can't do that in Atlanta, I can't do that in Tennessee, I can't do that in LA. I can't just walk into a record store. So it's really throttled the way to discover new music. And I'm tired of the shit on everything online right now. So I don't want it mainstream anymore. I want to discover some new blood, and I want to do it the right way. And I want people to do word of mouth. So if you can, guys, please, www.audioarchitects.com, go to the forum and let me know who in your hometown is badass and I should listen to them.
Cool.
That's all I got to say about that.
Well, I've got an announcement too. So I don't know if people have been keeping up with the newest news, but just today, Kaleidoscape announced their cooperation with Keith Yates Design. So Keith Yates is the guy who designed the Hahn Theater, and he does tons of super high-end stuff. And he's a kind of a superstar designer in the home theater world. And he's going to be on the show next week.
Oh, cool.
To talk about the partnership with Kaleidoscape. So I am super duper excited for that one, because this guy builds some of the very best theaters available, and he's willing to answer a handful of questions from the viewers. Now I'll post up a request for these, because we need to get these pulled in and vetted first, right? We don't want to put them on the spot, but to answer questions, he usually charges like $1,000 an hour or something like that. I mean, this guy, he's super high power. I mean, he is like legit top end, does multi-million dollar theaters for hardcore big names, right? This guy is the real deal. So I'm super excited that he's going to take an hour of time to come on the show, talk about the partnership with Kaleidoscape, and take some questions from the viewers. And the questions can be anything home theater, right? They don't have to be about Kaleidoscape. So super exciting. I'll get
$1,000 an hour.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Dude, if I were you, I'd break out the yellow pad and paper and start writing down questions you want to ask this dude and get your.
I was joking around with the Kaleidoscape folks. Yeah, I was talking to the Kaleidoscape folks. Well, I said, well, I can give you 3 questions right now that just come from me about my stuff.
I'm telling you, dude, I bet that guy's a freaking world of knowledge.
Oh yeah, he's a font of information. So I'm super excited to have him on, and that'll be next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, right here on Home Theater Fanatics Live. And I'll get that one. I'll get a link up to that probably tomorrow. And
solve riddles. That is awesome. AA have him solve riddles.
And I'm gonna go downstairs and finish up, if I can stay awake, the rest of the Batman, which is I'm liking. I mean, it's I don't know. It's all right to me.
Gave me a stomach ache. It was so bad.
Well, I'm glad I like it instead of having a stomach ache, because I would hate to have spent that much time.
You like it. You're barely half through it.
There's so much to like.
Just imagine another hour and a half of the same old stuff that you've already been watching.
Okay, so let me just be clear though. It's not Dune, right?
Dude, it's not even.
Dune was freaking awesome. This isn't awesome. It's okay though. It's okay.
I would rather watch 3 hours of My Little Pony than watch that.
Well, that's because you're a brony, and if people don't know what bronies are, you got to go.
No, dude. I'd rather listen to Barbara Streisand.
I like a little Streisand now.
for 3 hours.
I like a little Streisand.
I'd rather listen to Tejano music for 3 hours.
Is that the accordion?
Yeah.
Right on. All right.
Oh man.
We're going to call it. We're an hour and a half in. Everybody, thank you so much for coming and watching the show tonight. As always, Mike and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mike from Audio Architects, make sure to go subscribe to all his stuff. And if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, you're doing it wrong. Hit that button right now, please, and give me a subscription, ring the bell, check mark all the boxes, comments, and share with all your friends. It is very appreciated.
You'll see us next week. I'm coming ready with a bunch of questions.
Mike's like, I'm going to find out all about this stuff.
I'm going to find out everything. I'm going to get all the questions.
All the questions. All right, folks.
All right.
See you guys in the next one.
Bye.